Ben Hogan said, I eventually learned how to play, the greatest striker of a ball ever, but I'm too old to put it into practice.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, really, it's quite a fascinating story.
If Ben Hogan would have putted well, he would have shot in the mid-50s every day.
He was hitting drivers. I've never seen anyone to this day hit them the same distance, the same direction.
His concept was to throw the right knee at the ball.
People say Hogan won't ever talk to you. Well, Hogan talked to me a lot.
Hogan was the best striker from tee to green that ever lived, without a question.
I'll tell you what he really was good at is dancing.
I go back a long way with Hogan. Great admiration for him as a golfer and to me as a person.
Ben Hogan had a tremendous influence on everyone who watched him play the game. Please enjoy this episode of Mr. Hogan, starring Gary Player.
I'm Gary Player, and you're watching MSE TV.
Hey guys, today I am in Schwenksville, Pennsylvania to catch up with the legend himself, Gary Player. Gary Player won 9 major championships, 167 professional victories worldwide, and he even completed the Grand Slam on the Champions Tour. What an amazing competitor he is. He's a great businessman, a family man, and today we're going to have a fantastic conversation about Ben Hogan.
I learned so much watching Ben Hogan. And he was, in my opinion, I mean, look, Nicholas has got the best record. Nobody can deny that. I mean, people make comparisons. You cannot make comparisons of champions in any sport anymore. They're all different eras. And if one is better than the other, it's only a tiny fraction anyway. And the thing is, you know, how good were they? How much longevity did they have? That's the big thing. You judge players like longevity. If you buy a car, what's the best car? The one that lasts the longest, right? That has the quality engine. Nobody talks about longevity. Sam Snead would take a lot of beating. This man was the greatest athlete that ever played golf, ever. But Hogan was the best striker from tee to green that ever lived, without a question, and had the most perfect golf swing, because he hit millions of balls. And when I see what people teach today, some of it is such hogwash. I see some guys on the regular tour now. I promise you, if they did what Hogan suggested and understood, that's the other thing. I haven't met anybody that really understood what Hogan, and I was lucky to be around him to hear a few things that I never heard in my life. If some of these players that are playing today did that, they'd be so much better. So much better. This man spent his life. He didn't have children. He spent his whole life hitting golf balls every day and working like a Trojan.
What did it look like when he hit a golf ball? I've heard that he hit it through the same window. I've heard that it had a unique sound.
Sound. Correct. The sound. And that was with inferior clubs.
Hogan missed tournaments because of the war, the accident, the PGA and the British conflicting schedule-wise.
You see, I tell my grandchildren there are no ifs in sport, unfortunately. But there is an if. If there is an if, Hogan goes to war for 5 years. He wins 9 majors, goes to war for 9 years, has an accident. So basically for 30 plus minus majors, he doesn't play in his prime. 30 in his prime. And then he goes along and he has this terrible accident, but then he wins the 3 majors. Now he's at the British Open. He cannot get back for the PGA to prepare properly. Tiger Woods, when they play the British Open, he finishes at 6 at night. He is in his bed that same night at 11 o'clock because he has his own jet and the time change of 5 hours.
Right.
So he gets back. Hogan couldn't get back within weeks to prepare. Went by boat or a plane that went backwards, you know. I mean, it's just so, and can you imagine him playing with this equipment? You know, we used to cut greens, and I used to help my greenkeeper. He had a hand mower and a rope tied to the front. I'd pull and he'd push. Hand mowers, that's what they do all the greens with. All the greens were done with hand mowers.
What do you think was Ben Hogan's secret? Was there a technique that he kept secret, or did it get revealed?
he said to one of my dear friends, I'm going to my grave with most of my secrets. He said to one of my best friends. And I thought that was kind of sad in a way. He didn't like rich young kids at all because he was poor and he worked hard and he really believed in a work ethic. Man, this guy worked hard. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, I was playing at the US Open, my first US Open. And who do I draw? Ben Hogan. Oh, man, I was so tickled. I walk on the first tee, Southern Hills, and I finished second in my first US Open. And I'm playing with Hogan, and I walk on the tee. I go, morning, sir. Morning, fella. Played 36 holes. He said, good morning, fella, twice. And at the end of the 36 holes, he said, well played, fella. That's 7 words. Somebody said, why was he so talkative? This guy said...
He must have liked you.
Then he sends a man up, a little man called Ed Rankin. This is 1958. I remember it verbatim. He says, Mr. Hogan hasn't signed up any golfers on the tour, but he wants you to represent him with his clubs on the tour, and I'm going to offer you $2,000 a year. Well, that was, in those days, a lot of money, 1958. But the same day, somebody offered me $9,000. And I had to travel with my wife from South Africa to here, and I didn't have money. I was poor. So I went with the $9,000. It might have been a big mistake. Hogan got very cross with me, and I can understand that, because he hadn't made an offer to anybody else, and I turned it down. In retrospect, I might have made a mistake, because I would have ended up probably building a house next to him. He would have told me things that would have made me, not maybe, definitely enabled me to win more majors, because I made a change in my backswing. Look, you know, he said something to me in 1957 at Seminole Golf Club. He said, congratulations, we were held up, waiting. And he said, I just won a tournament in England. I shot 70, 64, 64, 68, 70. I broke Bobby Jones's 90-hole record. And he said to me, Hogan, while we were waiting there, congratulations on your victory in England. I said, thanks, Mr. Hogan. Yeah, I said, but they told me I should pack my game up and go back to South Africa and get a club job. He says, why? I said, because they said my swing was too flat. And he had a way of coming up to you. He'd come up like this. And he had eyes like a hawk. That's why they called him the hawk. He says, you can't be too flat. But he added things to it, which I don't want to get into. Mm-hmm. It was hieroglyphics to me. And at 70 years of age, I was practicing, I suddenly twigged on what he said. And I changed my entire backswing at 70 years of age. And now today, I've just beaten my age 2,700 times in a row at my age.
What?
Yeah, and I mean, I changed my backswing, and I used to hook the ball as a young man. Now, every ball I get up and try to hit, I try and hook. Every shot I get up, if I tried to hook it as a young man, I would hit it 60 yards left. Every shot I hit now, I try and hook it, it goes straight. Ben Hogan said, I eventually learned how to play, the greatest striker of a ball ever, said, I've eventually learned how to swing the club, but I'm too old to put it into practice.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, really, it's quite a fascinating story.
Wow. So at 70, you changed something?
I changed
a
my
light bulb
backswing.
went off?
I changed my backswing entirely. Everything that I was taught all my life was wrong. All the things. And I won 18 majors and 165 tournaments doing that.
Wow.
I mean, if I'd known that, I'd definitely, if I'd listened to Hogan or signed the Hogan contract or went to live in Fort Worth, Texas next to him, he liked me. Afterwards, he wasn't so keen on me because I didn't go with him. And then I had a lovely story. I'm in Brazil, and I'm with a good young friend of mine, and he says, you know, the right position is this at the top, and I'm saying, no, this is the right position. So he says, phone Hogan. I said, are you crazy? You don't phone Hogan. You don't understand who Hogan is. He says, if you got any guts, phone him. So his best friend lived just down the road from him, and I was very friendly with him. He says, phone Hogan at 5 to 8. He's only mean, not very mean. He's head up toddy. So I look at my clock, and we wait till 5 to phone him. I know it's the wrong thing. Mr. Hogan, good evening. This is Gary Player. Yep. What can I do for you, fella? I said, Mr. Hogan, because by this time he had the needle to me a bit, you see. So I said, I'm not a man who believes in giveaway programs. I've had to work hard and earn everything I've done. And I said, but I'd like to ask you a question about the swing. Dead silence. I said, hello, I'm overseas now. He says, I want to be real curt with you, fella. I'd never heard the word curt in my life. That was my first time. I want to be real curt with you, fella. Who do you represent on the tour? I said, Dunlop's. He says, call Mr. Dunlop. So I said to my friend, I told you we mustn't call him.
Oh my goodness, that is. But that sounds like Mr. Hogan. I bet you he did like you, and he was probably heartbroken that you weren't playing his clubs.
Well, I mean, you know,
were they good clubs back then?
The best. They were the best.
People, I don't think they give him credit as a club maker.
Oh, at that time, Hogan clubs were far better than any club on the market, without a doubt, even. Without a doubt.
Guys, I've been hearing that story about Mr. Hogan wanting to sponsor Gary Player for years, but it's great to finally get the first-hand account from Mr. Player himself. Now, we all know that Ben Hogan could be a tough cookie, but wait till you hear this story from the traditional Masters dinner. 15 shots. I improved my golf game by 15 shots in 1 year when I switched back to the classic swing I learned as a kid. I wasted over 20 years trying to do all these modern swing techniques, and it didn't do anything but confuse me.
Shot a 69.
Does it feel natural?
Feels very natural.
Had you tried to do other things before?
You think?
Today I've got the golf swing I've always dreamed of, and it was all about returning to the classic principles that the legends of golf used themselves. So if you'd like to learn more about how I swing a golf club, go to classicswing.golf and change your game.
He was tough. I mean, we were at Augusta. We were sitting at Augusta. And all the champions around the table. But we had dinner on a table like this then, just with a little mat. Now we're on a tablecloth, waiters there looking after us, great style, and this big room, and it's luxurious. And so we're down in the bottom locker room, and I see this book coming around, and the guys are signing it, you see? So Hogan is sitting here, and I'm sitting next to him because I was defending champion. And the book comes to me, and I sign it, and I slide it in front of Ben Hogan. Okay, watch me. I'll imitate Ben Hogan. Here he's sitting. Looks like this. He was a very sort of uptight guy. He said, it looks like this. Takes that book. Now everybody's quiet. Pow! Everybody jumped out of their skin. You can imagine that in the room suddenly, in this quiet room. He stands up. He says, who passed this goddamn book around? I mean, I'd never heard stuff like that in my life. Who passed this goddamn book? There's Sir Horton Smith, the first winner, says, Ben, I got a young boy at the club who has great potential. I just thought this would be the greatest gift bestowed upon him to encourage him. Horton, this is the Masters Club, not a goddamn autograph session club. Don't you ever do that again. Horton Smith sat down and we went on and everybody was astounded. Look, Hogan was a tough cookie. Woo! That man was a tough cookie. I love the story that they tell about Claude Harmon for your viewers. They're playing at Augusta on the 12th hole. And you know the people around there like vultures watching, because good shots end up in sheer disaster. That's why the hole's so tough. You can hit a perfect shot and be in the water or be over because the winds, it's the lowest part of the golf course, and the winds swirl like that. You stand on the 12th tee, 11 green, the wind is blowing that way, and 12 is blowing this way because the wind's coming around like that. You follow?
Yeah.
So Hogan is playing with Harmon. Harmon holds a hole in one. The people went berserk. Hogan with a little hat on like you on, cigarette, doesn't say a word. Throws his cigarette down, gets up, hits the ball at the green, 10 foot from the hole. They're walking across people, and Harmon turns around on the bridge, and people are cheering, and they get up. Harmon takes the ball out of the hole and is waving to everybody. They take the flag out, and Hogan knocks it in for two. Again to the next tee, he says, you know, Claude, They were very good friends. You know, Claude, that's the first time I've ever had a two of them at home. Yeah, the guy the guy who's had a one. So, you know, you hear these stories, and I'm sure if you went to one of the Harmon boys, who are wonderful young teachers and pros, if you went to one of them, I'm sure they'd verify that. But there's some incredible Hogan stories. Man, that guy, he could play. But I tell you, and I'll come back to the sound. You see, certain things in the swing make a better sound. Certain moves. Mm-hmm. And he had the right moves. Everything he did was the right thing to do. He had the perfect swing. The perfect swing. And I mean, really, I used to be, I'll never forget at Seminole the first time I saw him. On the 8th hole is a long par 3. Now they'd hit it probably a 5-iron. He had hit a driver. And that flag was back right, and I'll never forget. 10 foot from the hole. I mean, the sound. And I watched him practice. I used to sit behind him at Seminole for 3 hours, and he wouldn't even say good morning. You know, I'm saying hello to every guy there, all the juniors, greenkeeper and everybody. He never said, he just, and man alive. I would love to have seen him play with this equipment, these greens, these bunkers. And it frustrates me to see some guys who I watch on television, and I, having been around Hogan, you see, Hogan is the only man I met in my life, that knew the swing from A to Z. I met a lot of people that know from A to Y, A to W, but he was the only one I knew from A to Z. But the problem is he wouldn't impart with it. But I know the things he did, and I listened to him and what he told me, which was very little, but was significant. And I've got a picture of him on my desk in Florida on his backswing, and if you could see his backswing, the perfection and the implications of this swing are so, in fact, Hogan knew so much more than anybody else, so much more. Exactly what transpired with the club face, the plane of the swing, and as you initiated the downswing, where your club went and where the club went through and the follow through and how you finished, every little detail he knew to perfection. I'm telling you, I've been around them all. I played with Tiger, played with Jack, I even played with Tommy Armour, I played with Gene Sarazen. No, I tell you something, I used to watch Hogan at Seminole for 3 hours. My mouth watered. But
what did it look like?
It just looked like a BMW running down on a white beach. A black BMW running on a beach with a beautiful ocean on the right. Just beauty. And speed and balance, just everything was perfection. But he worked it out. And it's contrary when I read things that people say. I'm thinking, well, what would Hogan say about that? If you told Hogan, which a lot of guys practice today, they get back and they suck the club in here.
Right.
If I threw the ball at a basketball net, would I do that?
Nope.
If I pitched the basketball, would I pitch there? If I want to hit the ball there, my club better go there. It better not go over here.
Getting to spend the day with Mr. Player was the honor of a lifetime. Now, we didn't just talk about Ben Hogan in the golf swing, we also talked about the king himself. And no, I'm not talking about Arnold Palmer. Now, I have to ask you, I was in Las Vegas and I saw a video of Elvis Presley in Jailhouse Rock. And then I saw you talking about Elvis's hips.
Yeah, yeah.
So, is there a similarity in the way that...
Very much. And so I went on, after winning Augusta the first time in 1961, I went on, it was either Good Morning America or somebody's show. And I'm sitting there talking and they said, well, what do you like besides golf? I said, oh, I love thoroughbred racehorses and I love music. I said, give me that guitar. And I said, you can do anything but a step on my blue suede shoes. So Elvis sees us.
You're kidding,
Yeah.
He saw you?
So his manager, Hal Wallace, sends me a message. I was going to say an SMS, but it was a telegram. And says, Elvis would like to meet you. I said, I'd like to meet the king. I'm coming to LA. So I go down there. He's busy doing the movie called Hawaii. And as I walk in there, he says, cut. And I was very nicely dressed with a tie and a jacket. So he went inside, he put his jacket on. He came and I said, how do you do, sir? With his accent. He says, I'd like to play golf. So we're on the stage here, and he's got a grip. It looked like a cow giving birth to a roll of barbed wire, like this. So we get his grip right. He says, what's important? I said, Elvis, you've got to learn to use those hips, man. He says, the hips. He says, you're talking to the right man. He goes,
That is so.
and he was. I loved Elvis Presley. What
Wow.
a tragedy. See, drugs. What young people don't realize is what too much medicine and drugs and smoking and drinking does to your body. And your body's a holy temple.
Yes.
And there's a man like Elvis. I always said it was sad for me to see a man like Muhammad Ali dying early, who could have done so much in the world, and a man like Elvis who could have done so much in the world. Tragedy. This great talent thrown away. Eh?
The main reason why I love doing these interviews is I just can't get enough of the stories about how well Mr. Hogan struck the golf ball. In this next segment, we're going to learn a little bit about how Mr. Hogan could possibly help the PGA Tour pros of today.
But I remember Hogan at Augusta hitting shots there. Man, that caddy just went. I mean, you were in awe. You were in awe. Can you imagine giving him the clubs today? Can you imagine giving him the ball, the putting greens, the bunkers? Think about it. We had a ring on our stomach here, on our belt. Every day we played, we got a dozen balls, we put them through the ring. 2 never went through the ring, weren't round. Today's ball goes, with the clubs and the balls and the fairway combination, go 50 yards further. I get so frustrated. I see some players on the tour swinging, should be doing so much better than they're doing, but they're not doing the right thing in the swing.
Is it the
With
left
all
arm
the-
connection
I'm not going
across?
to tell you what it is. I'm not going to discuss who it might be. But I see 2 players on the tour. I could change their lives for them. I'm honest here. And if I don't, you can cut that little figure off. I could change their lives for them on the tour. But they're doing 3 things, 4 things in their swing is so bad. And they don't realize it. And, you know, you've got to be very careful with coaches. You've got to have a coach that understands the game, particularly a tour player. These club pros, I'm a big admirer of them. They do a marvelous job with their members. But there's always a limit. There's a limit on what I can do in different subjects. You follow? Even though I might know the subject, there's a limit. It takes a professional to do that. That's what I never understood about Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods wins the US Open not by 5, 15. 15. He goes for a lesson 2 weeks later. Why? Why? And it changes his swing and he starts doing things in there, and he never won a major for 11 years. Now, I'm not going to give the coach the blame, but it certainly played a role in it. I mean, and the coach is a pretty good coach. Then he goes to another coach and gets him sucking the club across here like this, and he gets worse. And so, if Tiger Woods had never gone for a lesson, or had gone to somebody like, say, Lee Trevino, who's as sharp as a tack, Tiger Woods, if he'd ever went for another lesson, would have won 20 majors. Minimum. Might have won 22. What was he looking for? Obviously, he wanted to try and get even better. But that was a grave mistake he made. Because this man, Tiger Woods, has got some ability, let me tell you. He's got more ability than anybody I ever saw playing golf. But ability doesn't put you in the record book as the best. And until he passes Jack Nicklaus's 18 majors, which he might do, you can't say he's the best.
Wow. That is...
So for me, that was very sad. Because I got such a kick out of watching him and so much ability. And when I heard he's having lessons, and you know, you saw pictures of his swing, that certain things were great. And after all these lessons, all those great attributes were not there anymore.
Right.
And the coaches were, in fairness to the coaches, they were trying to help him.
Sure.
But he was not doing the things that he did. And now he's going back to more of the things that he did. But here's the question, is it too late? I don't know. Time will tell.
Folks, I hope you loved this interview that I got to do with Mr. Player, and I hope you'll stay tuned because there's a lot more on the way.
Right.
And in the meantime, I hope you hit them long and hit them straight.
I saw Christo talking about the over-the-top swing at about the same time I was looking at old swings of Bobby Jones and Sam Snead, and both of them take it way inside and loop it over.
Bob, what's your lowest round of golf so far?
Shot a 69.
All right. I'm Christo Garcia, and you probably caught me on the Golf Channel swinging as Ben Hogan. My entire program is discounted for this introductory offer, so take advantage of this opportunity right now.